Hey, what's going on everyone? Sparks again and welcome to another character discussion video. After like 2 days of teasing and rampant community speculation, it was revealed to us that not only were we getting a second global first LD for 3rd anniversary, but that it ended up being Vincent 1 day late for Valentine's. As part of my potentially idiotic moves for this month, I pulled and got it, but just like Balthier, I actually have not purpled it yet and he is instead sitting at 2 ingots. Once we get to his EX Plus, I think you'll see why. But otherwise, if you're interested in this gun-wielding almost vampire, stick around and find out. Vincent is a fast range debuffer, commanding 2 elements and imperiling and self-enchanting both. Besides his imperils, he also has 2 very potent debuffs, and with his EX, he applies another frame debuff which has a sap effect. With his LD, he gains a long-lasting, powerful unique effect that increases his offenses, has an aura poison that affects all targets, and gives him a follow-up when he attacks debuff targets. All of his attacks deal group brave damage, but vary in how the HP damage is dealt. His skill 1 is Deadly Beast Flare, a 4-hit fire group attack with single target HP damage. For Vincent, this gives him a fire enchant, and for the targets, this applies a fire imperil and an initial bravery down debuff. If the target has at least 3 debuffs, this is improved to a plus form, which has higher potency and overflow. His skill 2 is Livewire Shot, a 4-hit thunder group attack also with single target HP damage. Similar to Beast Flare, this gives Vincent a thunder enchant and also gives him a max bravery buff, and for the targets applies a thunder imperil and an attack down debuff. Also similar to Beast Flare, if the target has at least 3 debuffs, this is improved to a plus form that has higher potency and overflow. With his Thunder Enchant active, he gains an improved Brave attack that has 2 hits, higher potency, and higher turn rate. His EX is Nightmare Shot, at base a 5-hit attack with 50% HP splash. Onto all targets, this applies Nightmare, a frame debuff which lowers defense and has a sap effect, and for Vincent gives him Implanted Power, a frame buff that raises his max bravery and gives him increased brave damage based on the number of debuffs on the target. With the EX passive, he gains an extra attack boost and an HP plus attack which gains 1 hit and slight overflow. The EX Plus is literally as old as it can get, sharing a banner with Cloud as the first EX Plus units available. I remember back then, if you got his EX, you'd realize it for the ingot to get to Cloud instead, since no one had surplus at the time. Realization gives him his starting buffs, his 2 enchants, and his max bravery buff. 1 ingot gives him a small stat boost. 2 ingots makes the EX cast have group hits and also gives him an HP 2+, with the only change being now it does group hits, 1 group hit. 3 ingots is an overflow boost to the EX cast. Yeah, it's fair to say he's never really had the best time with this. His LD is Satan Slam Shot, a 4-hit group attack with split HP damage done twice. This gives Vincent a long-lasting unique effect, Power of Chaos, which raises his max bravery, attack, stolen overflow, and has a poison aura effect for all enemies that triggers at the start of an enemy's turn. Additionally, if Vincent attacks a target with at least 2 debuffs on them, he'll trigger a follow-up attack, Chaos Saber Shot, a 6-hit HP attack with a debuff weakness modifier. The LD passive raises his attack. So, not only did we get the first gun LD in both versions of Opera Omnia, we also got the second. How is it? Well, okay, it's good. I think it's good. It's good for Vincent. He's in a rather awkward spot in that he only has 14 skill usages and his skills specifically have high turn rate, meaning you are capable of burning through them incredibly quickly. This makes him oddly reliant on his HP attack, which is probably tied for worst enhanced HP attack in the game. Before his LD, this made him such a weight for the whole team to carry, but now with the LD follow-up, it does give him some more offensive potential. Every attack now does at minimum 7 brave hits, with the follow-up coming off an LD cast totaling 14 hits. Not only that, but the follow-up has its own debuff attack modifier separate from what he gets with Implanted Power, meaning each follow-up can actually have good shave potential of its own, adding like another 25k damage at least. The follow-up condition is very easy for Vincent, but technically not guaranteed, and as a negative it'll trigger off his brave attack, but the move doesn't have any brave return, meaning unless you have a tank in the party, he can't really keep himself safe. Unlike Balthier, who got Attack's Keystone as his Lufenia armor, Vincent got Tactics Keystone, which is a far more sensible fit for him. Vincent's strengths prior to his LD were the potency of his stat debuffs, so the armor gives him some more of that by being on the field as well as letting him break Hell Bravery cap, which is not hard for him to do in the right conditions thanks to him hitting weakness and having debuff modifiers. To me, this means that whatever Vincent is getting in the future with his true LD release, they aren't trying to give him new roles, they're just trying to give him more power and make his current role better. The LD passive greatly raises his attack to let him fill better, the unique effect furthers that ability and adds more bravery and overflow so more space to fill, and the aura poison that applies to all enemies is pretty neat. Combined with his EX debuffs poison, he is very crippling to enemies in cases where you let them have turns. It goes without saying that Vincent's core kit is not exactly good. As is, it should probably be left in the same coffin he was found in initially. His kit hasn't been touched since mid to late Cosmos era, I think, and his EX Plus, again, is literally from the introduction of EX Plus weapons, and somehow it's trash even compared to Clouds, who we shared a banner with. His strongest uses up till now were for his debuffs, assuming the boss doesn't deal with cleansing. With his LD, he now offers more offensive potential on his turns, and he can certainly get a lot of them. Let's start off considering a core rework though. Other multi-element users such as Shantito, Alisei, and Zandy combine their imperils into a frame debuff, so do that. Now Vincent only takes up 4 debuff slots, 2 framed, 2 non-framed. Yes, this does interfere with his debuff brave damage boost from implanted power, but with such strong LD call debuff options available in the future and the increased enemy buff limit, I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem. Next, the non-plus forms of his skills. Keep the hit count, but split them into 2 hits done twice so he's at less risk of leakage. For the plus forms, add another hit to both sets of attacks, increase the overflow, give them splash HP damage. Also, maybe give both of them 2 more uses, but that's dependent on the LD extension. Speaking of the LD extension, I propose no huge changes, but there will be some useful ones. Maybe you'll consider these big, I don't know. 1. Add another hit to both parts of the LD cast, so now it's 5 hits done twice. 2. Give the follow-up splash damage. Also give it probably another 2 hits as well as HP damage return, as it actually doesn't have any in its current state. 3. Have the unique effect extend the duration of his granted debuffs. Even just 2 turns would be fine, but mostly this would be to help out Nightmare, as 3 turns is not a long time with how slow his EX will recharge. On that note, there's a few options they can do for skill longevity. Auto-applied debuffs would help with his base skill longevity, while having the LD apply Imperil and generic debuffs would save him a skill and let him get off a follow-up on the LD turn as an opener, similar to Machina. A free skill use after would be nice. A regen of one or both skills would be better in my opinion, because you may want to somewhat space out his skill usage. Lastly, I think Vincent finally deserves real enhanced basic attacks. Give his Brave 3+ an HP conversion, 3 hits, and leave it single target. That way he has a good single target option if ever needed. Also give his HP 3+ 3 hits and splash damage, basically just improving on the sad HP 2+ he already has. With Power of Chaos lasting up to 48 turns, it's heavily implying that they want Vincent to rely on his enhanced basic attacks that do damage. Let's make those attacks not trash tier. Does he deserve HP damage up? I'd say so, but probably in the same vein as what Kefka gets with his LD extension, and the boost scales with the number of debuffs on the target. One final thing that I think would be very interesting is change the Aura Poison from Power of Chaos to an Aura Sap, basically serving as reverse battery for Vincent on enemy turns. It doesn't really help his speed issue, but it would be a nice way for him to get extra battery. Vincent is eligible for a burst as a protagonist of Dirge of Cerberus Final Fantasy VII, so I can only imagine he'll be getting his true LD release then, which is probably more than 9 months from now. So yeah, that's an almost purple Vincent. With his surprise LD, he gains a lot more offensive power, making him a more capable damaging unit. His core debuffs are untouched, so while he's not a better debuffer, he now offers more to his party slot than just his debuffs. Funnily enough, he got something similar to what I was asking for Kai's to get in his discussion video, but due to his lightning-like turn rate during skills and low skill count, he is not skill happy and is rather reliant on his enhanced HP attack and follow-up. Thankfully, the follow-up is actually pretty great, but Lufenia generally calls for non-stop skill usage to keep up high efficiency damage and EX recasts. Because of these factors, I believe Vincent ends up being an offensive debuffer who can fill the priority 1 slot of a team but isn't a true priority 1. Similar to Firion and Balthier, he can work great in a solid synergistic party, Vincent being the debuffer and the other 2 units offering supportive roles via buffing and tanking, but none of them are a true main damage unit akin to Lightning, Cloud, or Squall. The main question then would be what purpose is he filling in that team otherwise. As for Lufenia fights, you have to consider the specific fight gimmicks that the Lufenia may add, as well as how to deal with the countdown. If you like this character breakdown and want to see others like it, other Opera Omnia content, or want to share your thoughts, be sure to stick around and subscribe. Discussion, likes, and shares are always appreciated. And as always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again.